Let's dive into the deep-seated issue of systemic racism. This troubling concern, which has woven its roots into the very fabric of society, subtly yet powerfully influences every facet of our lives. A key area where this potent force manifests itself is within our educational systems. Zoom into the urban schools where a vast majority of students are of color. These institutions, heartbreakingly, are consistently and significantly under-resourced. The facilities they can offer are often subpar in comparison to those found in schools located within wealthier, predominantly Caucasian districts. This issue dwells not only in the physical resources or lack thereof, but also in the quality of the teaching staff. These less privileged schools unfortunately tend to be filled with less experienced teachers, which further exacerbates the educational disparity among different racial groups. This disparity in education is not just a minor hiccup in the system, but a cornerstone of inequality that starts at a young age and perpetuates throughout one's lifetime. It effectively limits the opportunities for higher education and employment for students of color, solidifying the socioeconomic divide between races. We must understand that this inequality is not just a product of individual prejudice. Rather, it's born out of an intricate network of policies, practices, and societal norms, all of which work together to uphold the disturbing racial hierarchies prevalent in our society. Systemic racism is not just about one person's bias, but a collective societal issue that maintains and enforces these racial imbalances. It's not just about individual prejudice, but a complex network of policies, practices, and societal norms that uphold racial. Now let's shift our focus to healthcare. Healthcare is a fundamental right, but it is not available equally to all. This is an incredibly poignant issue, especially when looking at marginalized communities. Sociological studies have consistently shown that these communities often have less access to quality healthcare services. To understand this, we need to delve deep into the societal structures that perpetuate inequality. The impact of social determinants of health, such as income, education, and living conditions, cannot be overstated. These factors significantly influence the ability to access and utilize healthcare services. Marginalized communities often grapple with a lack of affordable healthcare options, understaffed facilities, and long wait times for appointments. The lack of resources means that they are more likely to receive substandard care. Moreover, the issue doesn't just stop at access. They often face implicit bias and discrimination settings. Cultural and linguistic differences might lead to misunderstandings between healthcare providers and patients. This can result in miscommunication, misdiagnoses, and inadequate treatment. The effects of these barriers and biases are far-reaching. They hinder preventative care, prompt care during emergencies, and follow-up care for chronic conditions. These accumulative adversities pave the way for poorer health outcomes. The healthcare system needs to address these disparities to ensure that everyone, irrespective of their socioeconomic background, has equal access to quality healthcare. It's a social responsibility that needs immediate attention. Now let's shift our focus to healthcare. Studies have shown that marginalized communities often have less access to quality healthcare services. Moreover, they often face implicit bias and discrimination in healthcare settings, which can lead to misdiagnoses, inadequate treatment, and poorer health outcomes. The effects of these consequences are stark, and they need to be addressed promptly to attain health equity. In the intricate dynamics of the labor market, systemic racism emerges predominantly in the form of wage gaps and employment discrimination. This is an issue that is deeply entrenched in the structure of our society and one that continues to impact the lives of millions of individuals every single day. Despite having similar qualifications, skills, and years of experience, people of color often find themselves being paid significantly less than their white counterparts. This is not a mere coincidence or a result of individual biases. It is an institutionalized problem that is deeply ingrained in the fabric of our economy. People of color, regardless of their educational attainment or professional qualifications, are systematically denied equal pay for equal work. This is not just about numbers on a paycheck, it's about fairness, justice, and equal opportunity. By paying people of color less for the same work, we are sending a message that their contributions are less valuable. This is an injustice that needs to be addressed. Further, these individuals are often denied access to opportunities for advancement and growth within their respective organizations. They are overlooked for promotions, excluded from important meetings, and undervalued despite their hard work and dedication. This not only hinders their professional growth but also further widens the economic divide. This discriminatory practice perpetuates a relentless cycle of economic disadvantage that is incredibly hard to break. It's a cycle that is perpetuated not just by individual biases, but by systemic injustices that are deeply ingrained in our society. The effects of this cycle ripple out, impacting not just individuals but entire communities and generations. Lastly, the criminal justice system is a vivid illustration of systemic racism. The weights of prejudice and discrimination tip the scales of justice heavily against individuals belonging to minority groups. An essential focus here is on people of color, particularly Black and Latino men who find themselves ensnared in the iron grip of this biased system. They are subjected to an amount of scrutiny, suspicion, and surveillance far more than their white counterparts, leading to their disproportionate targeting and arrests. An equally disturbing facet of this systemic bias is the incarceration rate among these minority groups. The statistics are glaring, revealing an alarming trend of racial disparity in prisons. Black and Latino men are not just unfairly targeted, but also disproportionately incarcerated. They make up a large share of the nation's prison population, significantly more than what their representation in the overall population entails. This rampant racial disparity is further exacerbated in the sentencing phase. Black and Latino men are frequently handed down harsher sentences compared to white individuals convicted of comparable offenses. The racial bias doesn't end at the arrest or the trial. It extends even to the courtroom's sentencing phase. Their sentences aren't just harsher, they are alarmingly severe, often leading to imprisonment. This cycle of prejudice, arrest, incarceration, and harsh sentencing not only shatters countless lives and disintegrates families, but it also reinforces negative stereotypes and social stigma. The continuous devaluation and alienation of these individuals in society serve to perpetuate a cycle of systemic racism, making it difficult for them to break free from this debilitating pattern. Lastly, this not only destroys lives and families, but also reinforces negative stereotypes and social stigma. Addressing systemic racism requires a multifaceted approach. It is not merely an issue that can be tackled overnight, but it is a deeply entrenched societal ill woven into the very fabric of our societies, communities, and institutions. It demands a nuanced response that engages with the root causes, not just the symptoms. It begins with the personal introspection of recognizing and challenging our own biases, both conscious and unconscious. These biases, often unintentionally formed, can shape our attitudes and behavior in ways that perpetuate systemic racism. It requires self-education, understanding, and acknowledging the historical context and the continued impacts of racism we must actively advocate for fair and equitable policies. This involves scrutinizing our systems, institutions, and policy-making processes, ensuring that they are not perpetuating racial disparities. It involves lobbying for reform and consistently pushing for policies that promote social justice, equitability, and fairness. It also implies holding our politicians and institutions accountable for their actions and decisions related to racial justice. Promoting diversity and inclusion in all areas of society is equally crucial. Diversity beyond mere representation. It fosters understanding, empathy, and respect for all individuals, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or background. It challenges stereotypes, breaks down barriers, and provides opportunities for all. Inclusion ensures that everyone's voice is heard and their experiences and perspectives valued. Furthermore, it's necessary to educate ourselves about systemic racism, listen empathetically to the experiences of people of color, advocate for policy changes that promote equity and justice, support businesses owned by people of color, and use power of our vote to elect officials who are committed to dismantling systemic racism. Remember, this isn't about merely being non-racist, but being fervently anti-racist. Being anti-racist means proactively working against racism and its effects, not just passively avoiding racist actions. It's using our privilege, if we have it, to benefit those who don't. It's about recognizing our shared humanity and fighting for a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. Every step we, however insignificant it may seem, moves us forward in this journey. Together we can make a difference.